Unasikia vipoa? Okay. Naweza kaa kama mtangazaji wa habari. Unataka aje? Nikuwe mtangazaji wa habari ama nikuwe laid back? My name is Kipana. I'm a photographer based in Nairobi, Kenya. My main genres of photography are weddings and portraits. From what I can remember myself is I've been very outgoing as a person, very creative. I took a quick interest in music actually. So the church we used to go to with my parents at that time, because I'm the firstborn of three, so I should mention that I'm the firstborn of three. There was an organ, and so we'd sit, if the organ is here, the choir sat here, and my dad was in the choir. So I liked to hear my dad sing, and then I'd sit here. So I'd always sit with the organist, intrigued by black and white keys. And so anytime he pressed, for me at that age, it's, why is he pressing these keys in that way? And the sound the organ made. Then when I joined primary school, I do have a memory, I think, of me being an actor. I progressed. I did a bit of public speaking, dances, yeah. But then also now I also picked up a proclivity to, oh wait, is it proclivity? Don't know whether that's the right word to use here. But I picked up languages very quickly. So English became quite a strong suit for me. I readily express myself in English most of the time, though I can speak in my mother tongue falteringly when with my grandmother, and Swahili when pushed to speak in Swahili in very formal circles, and then sharing here and there. I have a background in finance, so I have a degree in commerce, finance option. I practiced for about a year. However, as I mentioned to you earlier, my being musically inclined, I initially wanted to do DJing as a career. But my mother, God bless her soul, who's been a career teacher all her life, was like, no, you're not going to become, you're going to be a DJ. The university is 3 kilometers from where we live, so go find something to do. So I went through the degree program, and then I thought, possibly when I finish, then maybe I can go into DJing, which I did for about a year. And then within this time, where I used to work, some of my friends from campus had already started doing photography, and they'd meet every Tuesday at a friend's. So one of the friends, their dad's office, they would meet there. So on Tuesdays from about 6, or was it 5:30 p.m? About 5:30. So they'd come, teach each other stuff. I would go just to watch, because to me photography was a cool kids. It was a thing for the cool kids, and I was not a cool kid myself. So anyway, to cut the long story short, November of 2012, I got invited to a shoot by my friend, Joe McKenney. And I remember now walking back, there used to be a camera shop. Well, there was this one, but there used to be another one right at Stanley Hotel. And I saw a small Digicam, and I just made a small prayer, and I was like, I wish I could get that one. So I got it. One of my grandfathers who lives abroad came home, had lost the charger for his camera, so he just told me, here. By that time, I'd already started shooting on my phone though. So he gave me that small camera, and my first job that I remember I got was to cover the elections that year. I'm not one to brag, but I would say that 12 of my images were bought by those collab between Kwani Magazine and Power 254. So that's actually how I ended up getting it. And then a few months later, I joined a good friend of mine called Keriko Mungai, brilliant photographer and creative all around, to shoot what was supposed to have been a traditional wedding ceremony, which ended up being a very, very, very formal wedding ceremony. Still on that tiny camera. So that's how I began photography. Photography was not anywhere near anything I wanted to do. So funny story. This is a funny story. Not funny, haha, but funny. My dad is a very open person, so it didn't matter to him what I did, so long as I did something. With my mom, she's more, this is the line you chose, now follow it. I mean, that's all she knows, and I can't fault her for that. So 2014, I think? Yeah, 2014, I hired gear from a friend. I get to town, and I'm not joking and I'm not making this up. Between me and the next coin I would have had was 5 shillings. I was bringing the gear at, I was returning the gear at, what's this place called? I&M. So from I&M, I only have 5 shillings. I've come back, I've given back the equipment. I have 5 shillings between me and the next coin I'm going to make. And previous weeks before that, my mom was, "Endo tafute kazi, go look for work." I'm like, "But I've already looked for work and nothing is coming. So I might as well just do this photography thing." And I said, if I have to walk to all my shoots, so be it, if you're not going to sponsor it. Or if you're not going to help me. So I was like, cool. I did not know that I was going to eat those words up a few weeks later. So I walked from town to Kenyatta Road in Juja. It was exactly, it took me 4 hours. Yeah, I walked 4 hours. So anyway, a few months after that, a friend of mine in church had a Nikon D3100, I think, and it was just lying. So he's like, "Hey, since you have this passion for this thing, I can let you have a camera and you go shoot." I was like, cool, no problem. Wait, no. Actually, there was a wedding I shot in the same year, March 22nd. It was a friend's wedding. And the images were so good. So I didn't show them to my mom, I didn't show them to anyone. And then that work happened. And then shortly after that, now paying gigs started coming. And then now my mom is seeing me being able to buy myself shirts and go out. She's like, okay, maybe then it makes money. But I think, so at the end of that year, I got the opportunity to shoot with one of the legends in photography here in Kenya, Emmanuel Jambo, was also the president's photographer. That was my first interaction with very high-end gear, photography gear. And then the next year, 2015, I interned at his studio for a couple of months between Jan and April. Then in April, I joined now who's my good friend, Will Moneki, shoots weddings as well. I shot with him up until I think September of the same year. Yeah, so I think that by that time now my mom had gotten to the fact that, okay, this guy's not going to look for another job. And he's very comfortable doing what he's doing. I mean, I can see him getting his own things, so yeah. So by the time 2 years later, I moved out. So I left home. She was like, oh, so actually this can sustain someone. So she's like, okay, she should back down. Through the walk itself, because I'm sure at some point I got tired and I was ready to quit. But I had to tell myself, hey, if you sit here, you're not going to move. So jog. That's exactly what I did. In the beginning, and I was listening to a podcast recently, and one of the guys said, the dream is yours. No one else understands it except you. So if you don't fight for that dream, you're the one who's going to die a miserable death. Or you're going to watch this thing that you care so much about die a miserable death. So don't allow any other voices, including your own, to tell you that you can't do it. Okay? So you have to have self-belief. That's number one. Number two, don't be afraid to learn. I'm a self-taught photographer, but then I've learned from other people. So there are two things. There's the creative side of photography and there's a business side of it. The creative side, anyone can do. The business side is what most people don't get. And if you don't have to be the best photographer to make a business out of this thing. There are people who who are not good at what they do, but they end up making a lot of money simply because they understand the business side of it. They understand the marketing, they understand putting systems in place to make sure that the money is coming in, even if they're not the ones going to their job. I look at an example like this shop. Parag doesn't have to be here, yet the business is going to run. That's simply because he might love cameras and he might not even be the best photographer, but he knows if I can't shoot, I can sell. And so if I sell, and this is what guys are asking for, I can employ people and I can put systems in place to make sure that these photographers get the equipment that they need. And that's what happens. Finally, have a love for your job. Have a love for your job. There's no point in you getting into something if you're not going to do it for the long haul, right? I mean, okay, maybe because age or sickness can slow you down, but be in it for the long haul. And that means you have to morph at some point. We advance in age, you're not going to be the spiffy and flightly 23-year-old forever. When you start hitting your later 30s, starting knocking on 40 and 50, your body starts telling you slow down. So what does that mean for you? Do I change what I do, the genre of photography, or do I find people who are young enough to do the job for me, or do the job with me, not for me, but with me? Understand the trends also in business. Even in creativity, understand the business. A few years ago, we all had a guy who came around our estate on a bicycle, take pictures, then deliver them a week or two after. That model of business is no longer viable. Now we want instantaneous stuff. Everything we need to do is instantaneous. This video, based on even how the two cameras are shot, one is in landscape and the other one is in portrait mode. The one on portrait mode, if this guy chooses to upload that footage right here and now, he will do it without any editing. He'll do it. Why? All he needs to do is connect the phone to the camera, download the footage, upload. I can take pictures right now, and that amazes some of my clients sometimes, is that I can take wedding pictures, or in a Rorashio or Angasia, those are traditional wedding ceremonies. And I'll say, okay, fine, give me 30 minutes and I'll find you 15 pictures. And they're like, wait, 15 pictures just now? I'm like, yeah. And so I do that and I connect with my phone and I download and I edit images straight on my phone. And they're like, they're mind boggled. So also understand the trends. Majority of the clients I've gotten are either people I know, some of my friends, or clients I've shot before and they liked my work and they've decided, hey, we just need to stick with this guy. And other times it's just referrals. And even advertising. I'm not afraid to advertise my business. You guys consistently put out content and posters to tell guys, hey, there's this new piece of equipment. These are the reasons why you should check it out. So that's how I get business. And other times I work, I'm not afraid to collaborate with other people as well. So you collaborate with someone and that's money still coming in, going as a second shooter. There's nothing wrong being with a second shooter. So if you are a second shooter, go do it. It's still money, it's bread and butter. Creative process. To be very sincere, it is a mixture of many things. I can come into a space and look at it and be like, it's not the best, but this is what we can do with it. If I'm shooting people, mostly weddings, the initial meeting tells me what kind of people they are. So I go by their vibe. So there's, what is it called? Your aura never lies. So if you're a warm person, I'll become warm. If you're on the opposite end, I'll be like that, but then I have a job to do, right? So it's my responsibility also as a photographer to cheer you up or to make sure that your mood is at where I want it to be. Finally, there are times when I sit down, my research is weird. There's a series that came out a few months ago on Netflix. Why am I forgetting the name? But the entire series is shot in black and white. The reason why I've come to like black and white films is because I watched one of the greatest black and white films that was ever made in the 40s, Citizen Kane. All of it is in black and white. They say color is distracting. It gives beauty, but if you want to understand lighting, for me, and even how some of these things, these guys did VFX, visual effects. During those times, it's ridiculous. They used cardboards. They used a lot of trickery. If you watch a lot of Charlie Chaplin behind the scenes, it's a lot of trickery. It's just knowing where to place the camera, how to place the light, what prop goes where. That to me is mind-boggling. So that's how sometimes I research like that. It could even come from music. I just hear a lyric somewhere and I'll be like, what does that lyric, what kind of image does that lyric bring in my head? The thing is, at the end of the day, that criticism, the question I always ask myself is, will I let that criticism pull me down or will it push me to become better? Which one of these two things do I want to do? Human beings, there's something in neuroscience they call neuroplasticity, meaning your brain expands with information. So you learn incrementally. That's a quote I can directly get from a celloist called Yo-Yo Ma. He says, if you want to learn to play, he was talking to a group of, he was doing something called a tiny desk, and he was, in between he had interludes, and it said to people, if you want to learn to play a certain piece of classical music, so it could be Mozart's symphony number, whatever, and it's technical as a celloist, play the first notes slowly, repeatedly. Start at a slow pace and continue building on that. What you do is that you're increasing your capacity to absorb this information. Criticism is if you're told, I did not like how you framed this thing, you're like, okay, what could I have done better, right? And there is no one day, even for me who's been in photography now for about 10 years, that you're going to be like, oh, now I have everything on lock. You always learn on each set. You always take something from it. There's something you're going to miss. There's something you're going to gain. And it's just not shooting only. It's even how you handle, what's the customer experience? How did I, besides the client, who else was there that I affected? So you're learning from very many, like you're getting feedback from very many sources, and it's your job, it's your responsibility, I believe, to learn from each of those things. So do not be afraid to be critiqued. Do not be afraid to critique yourself. I do that often. I was just showing one of your colleagues some pictures. I've had those pictures since 2017, and I've used them today to design a poster. simply because at that time I felt they were not good enough. But today I've just looked at them and I'm like, they actually look nice. Why can't I use them? You can look at your glass as half empty and go like, I don't have anything. Or you can look at it and like, I have some bit of water here. So I can take a sip and my throat will not be parched. They say you're only as good as your last job. Okay. I can mention highlights in my career that I'm happy about. I've been published twice. The first time was 2015 April, Drum Magazine. I was interning at Emmanuel Jumbo Studios, and then in 2016, 17, I think. There's a stylist called Connie Watch. She used to run a section, and I worked with a model or a fashion, a stylist also in her own right called Winnie Odande. So her images got published. So I've been published twice. But the one that made me, the one that sealed for me that this is what I'm meant to do was the elections of 2013. Yeah, because I was green completely, didn't have a lick of photography knowledge, and 12 of my pictures were bought. I'll quote a photographer called Ansel Adams. Ansel Adams says, the best camera is the one that you have in hand. We all have cameras these days, and it's a phone. Use that. Don't wait to buy an EOS R6 or R5. Don't wait. Or a Sony Alpha 9, if that's what you're looking to get. Or the best lens. I mean, the best camera is the one that you have on hand. So if you understand the fundamentals of photography, your composition, your lighting and framing, exposure, shoot with that. My favorite lens to use is the Sigma 85mm f1.4. That's my favorite lens. I love that lens to bits. I normally like to shoot portraits in weddings, and it does it in, I can't put it to you how it does it, but I just look at my images and I'm happy. Yeah, it's a quick lens, it's sharp. Oh, it's just delightful. Yeah, if you pair it with a mirrorless camera, like the Canon R series, you will not go wrong. The one tip I'd love to give you, I will say it in Latin, te applicare, which means apply yourself. There's nothing worth doing that you need. If anything is worth doing, don't do it half step. Go all the way. If you mean to bake, bake with everything. If you mean to cook, bake with everything you have got. You only get one shot in life. You might as well just apply yourself in it. Not work with, but I'd love to watch them work. Jose Villa and his partner in business, I think maybe in life also, they shoot amazing weddings. I'd love to be a fly in the wall when they have creative meetings with clients. I'd really love to sit and watch that. I'm a person who lives by the day, because I don't know whether in 5 years I'll still be alive. So, to be very honest, I have never thought about it. But let's wait and see. Ask me that question 5 years after. Then we'll see. I've attended a few of their workshops. I haven't actually hosted one. I've been hosted on one. I was to walk through, guys, parts of the Canon camera, because I'm a Canon shooter primarily. I started on Nikon and then I moved to Canon. Yeah, so based by those workshops, I've also learned, because also now part of growing as a photographer is that you can't just be a photographer now. I'm now also learning videography and live streaming. So some of the workshops have helped me in that regard. Yeah. Cameras Africa, equipping storytellers.